of this discrimination that works against African American, black people, people of color, and that we buy into it and continue to go in that cycle. Is that what I hear you saying?
Oh yes, and not only that, the repetition is what's going to prick the people in the heart. The more brothers we have out here that's speaking up about these issues and coming to the same conclusions, hey, the more hearts we're going to prick, because they're going to go listen to somebody and this brother saying the same thing this brother said. Then they go try to listen to somebody and he's saying the same thing that brother said. Well, this seems like they're on to something. I might need to get on this train.
Okay. I want to go to Omar, and then we're going to transition to police brutality. What do you suggest at this point? And you said, well, you made me think about when Roosevelt was president. These things were going on before his time, but for some reason he was a little more, and his wife as well, popular in that regard, and even supporting and putting money out for artists even. Does the problem now with this political situation have to do with Obama and the lack and the withdrawal and extraction of not to work in this regard? And how do we roll forward in that regard?
You know, the biggest problem we have is unity, and that's because they will not unite behind somebody who has the best interests of black people at heart and who will not sell them out. We don't have a money issue as bad as we seem to think it is. The Department of Commerce says $1.3 trillion flows to the black community. And you know, people don't put businesses where there's no money, but you got cash time. You got all these places that will let you do a title loan. You got Dollar General, Family Dollar, Dollar Tree. Everybody wants your dollar but me. We got to figure out how we can keep our dollars in our own community and give it to people that look like us. Every time you look around, they're building a new service station in the black community and they're taking your dollars out of your community. You must have some dollars in there. You just don't know how to get it out. Okay. You got to figure out how to keep that money floating and bouncing around in our community and tell these other folks to go ahead. We need to take our children and get them out of the mindset you're going to go work for FedEx, you're going to go work for this. Look, you're going to go open up a business, son. Daughter, you're going to open up your own business and you're going to bring your folk into your business to support you. And you're going to create some jobs for your own people. Okay,
that's a couple of things. Tyloo had mentioned being programmed to work and not open up businesses.
Yes.
So we've mentioned a couple of important things. Focusing on the children and opening up business, so that's going to be a narrative that we're going to be pushing going forward. Now, here's something.
I want to interject something.
Go ahead.
About the narrative,
okay,
and how important the narrative is. Every Sunday morning, America presents the narrative for the following week on various TV programs, right? On Meet the Press and on some of the others. I'm not gonna name them all, but every Sunday, they pull in some of the most influential Caucasian people in the world, in their estimation, and they set the foundation for the week of news. What they say on Sunday morning is spread out for the whole week. And that's their narrative. That's how they control what's being said and how it's being said and the effect of it. It's a control thing. It's a business.
That makes me think about propaganda.
Yes.
Someone has told me that this show here sets, some of what you've just said, sets the agenda for the week. Who listen to the show every Sunday, they listen to the show. After the show, they fall back and start thinking. But here's something that we should be very unhappy about. We want to talk about anger and being angry enough to do something. Let's transition now to police brutality, and let's talk about, what's his name, Omar? Last name is Gray?
Yes.
Freddie Gray in Baltimore, Maryland, Lonnie. So is this something that we should get mad about and decide to do something about? And can we unify around white supremacy and do something about and be mad about the murdering of our brothers, our young brothers on top of that?
I think we should, we should be, we should be mad anytime anyone, especially outside our race, targets our people, and it seems as they're making they putting an image in our head to let you know, hey, you better not get out of line, step out of line, this is what happened, and thing is, you know, until we stand for our brothers, like that brother, we may not know him, but we all are the same, and we know the struggle that he's going through. So he should be a brother, as you know, if he had the same blood rolling through your veins. But like I said before, it's sad to say it always takes something like this to happen for us to say, hey, you know, we're tired of this. You know, and that's a part of life. That's a part of our way of living. As in America, you know, it seems like almost every other day or every day we turn on the news, another unarmed black brother, and now they're saying, okay, this brother, he has injuries to his spinal, and no one knows how he had it. No, or they're saying they don't know. They didn't have any confrontation with the brother when they arrested. He didn't show any, you know, signs that he was resisting, according to their report. So now the mayor's like, hey, well, he's not showing any signs. Y'all, the reason y'all pulling over is still questionable, and now y'all dragging him into the jail, and now he dies a few days later with a broken spine and neck injuries, and the doctors are saying these type of injuries from a car accident. You know, it's the same from a car accident. And
well, they call it rough ride.
Rough riding. So
where you're not seated in your seatbelt, and the cops are driving fastly, intentionally, and further injuring young African American men. Jeffrey, I want to go to you. You're a young African American man. The two of you are. Well, we all are. You're just a little younger than we are. Go ahead. I won't get off on that. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
As we see, our age doesn't exempt any of us.
Okay.
You know? We've had people that are who I would refer to as elders. I can't remember her name, but if I recall, maybe last year it was a lady in her 90s got killed by the police, and then a young 8-year-old child. I don't remember the names, but nobody's exempt from this, and I think everything on this story with Brother Freddie Gray is, like, I'm looking at a document right now. It says the mysterious death of Freddie Gray.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the only camera footage that we have is of him when he's on the ground screaming and hollering in pain while they drag him into the paddy wagon. And pretty much, I don't know, he couldn't have stepped up in the paddy wagon. They had to have just thrown him in there. You know, he couldn't step up because his legs were
Well,
left.
we saw that. We saw that footage on TV.
Right, right. He couldn't make it in there on his own. At what point do those supposed public service officials realize that maybe they didn't have a job to do? Maybe they should have called the ambulance. You know, if they didn't cause those injuries to him, if they just came up on Mr. Gray like that, how come they didn't call an ambulance so he could get medical attention?
He had an asthmatic problem, is that right?
Oh yeah, he had he was asthmatic, and not only that, I heard that there hasn't been any confirmation on why he was being apprehended in the first place. So
That's still a mystery. Omar, say something about cameras in this regard, Omar. Now, some are saying that cameras will do no good. I've heard you speak in favor of cameras, and I'm not suggesting alone that cameras alone will get the job done in terms of solution. But I want to hear more from you about that, and then let's talk about another possible solution. I want to go to Talud after you.
You know, I don't think a police officer should be allowed to get in his patrol car without a body camera that works. And if he does not work, he doesn't work that day. And that's just the bottom line. And if it malfunctions while he's at work, you need to go back to the station and get one that will work, and then go back out on patrol. These, if you look at it, what they have done with these black men is they have punished them for even talking back to the police. Now you look at Trayvon Martin, that man should have been charged indicted, and then found guilty for a child who's just going home, back to his father's house. If you look at Eric Garner,
A kid eating Skittles.
he eats
A kid.
and has committed no crime.
Right.
A crime was perpetrated against him, and the perpetrator was allowed to go free. I'm telling the gangs in America, y'all so bad. Y'all
Yeah.
can do a drive-by on innocent people.
Yes.
You need to put your guns down.
Okay.
If you ain't gonna go and do the drive-by on the killers of our children.
Talu,
Michael Brown.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Michael Brown committed no crime except jaywalking, and that's not an offense punishable by death. But when you surrender with your hands up and then you still get assassinated, then that's punishment because you resisted the police. Eric Garner, that's no difference. You resisted the police. You told me you hadn't done anything. And the witnesses say he had just broken up a fight. He wasn't selling loose cigarettes that day. But because you talked back to the police, you were punished for that. Same thing with this young man. You ran from the police, and because you ran, they wanted to punish you. But let's look at that.
Let's look at it.
How do you have a spine that's cracked in 3 places? How do you have a voice box that's crushed? That didn't happen from riding in the back of a van. And you look at the video, you couldn't even walk to the van. Somebody had to carry you on both sides to get you into the van. There's no way you could have a van ride that would crush your spine and crush your voice box like that. And you handcuffed and got leg irons, putting leg irons on you. Something happened to you before you even got to the van. And even though you had 5 police officers that gave some kind of statement, one of them said he's not going to talk, he's going to evoke his 5th Amendment rights. But all of that, even Walter Scott,
Yes.
you already got his idea, you know how to go and arrest him, but even when he resists arrest and he runs from you, what you're going to do, you're going to punish him for running, just like a casual dead dog. You're going to take your gun and shoot him down like you're shooting down a dog or a rabbit. All of that is to punish the black man for resisting the police officer, to resist the authority. They know one day, they feel like one day there's going to be retaliation against them for all the evil and wickedness they've done to us. And one day that may happen.
Just go ahead.
You said something about running while black. Young man, African American, murdered after running while black. And Talu, say a little more about solution, cameras, and taking them on. I'm throwing this out. I'm asking this question. Taking them on in court. And whatever you want to add to that.
Well, I'm one who just profoundly believe that white police officers or Caucasian police officers shouldn't have any interaction with anybody black in our community, period. Let them police their own areas out there.
Yes.
They're insensitive.
Yes.
They are killer cops in our communities, and they're killers like the Nazis. The Nazis were killers of the Jewish people under Adolf Hitler. These are the types of killers that's on the police department. They hunt down and kill with the protection of the law. Okay? And they collaborate all of this nationally. It's nothing new. We want to be treated fairly, as we always say. That's crazy. We don't need anybody treating us any kind of way. We don't need their treatment on us. We should be men enough to stand up and confront them, challenge them, okay? Make them do right by us individually and as a community, okay? But since we're weak and our spines are broken and we're godless in our habits and ways, we don't have the mindset to do that. We're dependent on them. We in our community see them killing us every day and pick up the phone and call the damn police. We gotta be crazy.
Yes.
And the police come to your house and the killer cops come to your house and kill the person that you love.
Yes.
You just want to be treated right and fair. You want the killer cops to solve your problem in your domestic situation, and you call them there and they kill you. And then you cry and moan and protest and wait on the next killing and do the same thing again, which is totally insane.
Over and over and over again,
Totally
mark of
insane.
insanity. Jeffrey, I want to go to you. And here's 3 questions for all of us. We've given a description of the killer cops. And at some point, what we do here, we examine everything. At some point, let us proceed to examine the nature of these white men killer cops. Examine it at some point. Now, Jeffrey, what happened to community policing? And say something about what we should be, why we should be unhappy, and what we should do about it. And no one has said anything about as part of. I agree with Tyloo about being dissatisfied, addressing the issue, confronting it, quit being mealy-mouthed about it, and say something about why we should be unhappy and handling this situation in court as well. Is it possible to beat them in their own court of law? And you hear me talking about organizing and promoting young lawyers who will address the issue, but someone said they perhaps may not have the experience. They gave me a new idea to add to that, not take from it, but to add to older experienced lawyers, and should we get busy in that area? Come on, Jeffrey.
Absolutely. We have a very, very big deficiency in our understanding in the law. While we complain about the laws of the land, and because all we see is justice, but I don't think on a mass level or on a general level that the majority of our people, when I say our people, black or African American, however you want to be labeled as, we don't have a very good understanding of the law of this land, and so it's going to be imperative that we have specifically the youth, because the youth is where the energy comes from, and we have to plant that seed in them and let them know how important that is. It is through the Constitution that they told us that we were 3/5 of a man at the beginning, though it was amended after the emancipation. We have no understanding of the system that we're living in, so we do have to prep our youth to get a better understanding and going and battling them in their courtrooms. That's something that we must do.
Right. You said battle. Battle. I like that word. Battle in the courtroom, or battle wherever the battle needs to be taken up at. Is that right?
That's correct. And let me just add on that. I remember last week, I think we ended on it was brought up about the story of Sar Arset and Heru.
Yes, you brought it up.
But likewise, in this case, dealing with the courts, not only did Arset resurrect her husband or put her husband back together, but they had the first immaculate conception of their son Heru, and his whole purpose in life was to avenge his father's death. And so he tried many different ways to avenge his father's death, but he was only able to succeed in avenging his father's death in the court of law, using the deity of Ma'at, which is the Kemetic deity for truth and justice.
Isaac, do we have a call on the line? Anyway, the number to call, if you want to get on the show, be a part, participate with us, 901-327-3400 or 901-327-2500. Omar, Jeffrey has said that we should understand the law and the Constitution. And we should develop the skill around those two particular words. Is that right? Say something about how to proceed in that regard, and speak from your knowledge and experience.
You know, the law is a fluid thing. It's never the same from one generation to the next. Back in the days of slavery in South Carolina, for example, a white man could be hung for stealing. Bank robbery, he could be hung. But if a slave robbed somebody, they wouldn't hang the slave, they'd beat the hell out of him. Now, if a black man killed a white man, the punishment was first to torture him by first amputating parts of his body, his toes, his fingers, his scrotal sac, his penis had to be amputated. And then, after he was tortured, then they hung him. That was the law of the land at that point in time. But because of the torturous existence that they put upon us, white folks today, the slave master children today, still feel like retaliation is coming because of what they did to us under slavery and what they did to us under Jim Crow.
We've got a caller on the line, maybe two or whatever, but some laws, ask Dr. King, or people who like Dr. King, some laws are made to be broken.